For the cultural narrative assignment, there are two questions I get asked the most. What culture should I talk about? And what should I talk about that culture? So to help you out with that assignment, I'm going to talk about how I would talk about this in class. What I first do is identify for the class some of my cultures. So the cultures I picked, which you have to do for your later assignment, is to identify 5 cultures that you belong to, are being a father, being a professor, koi. I have a pond in the backyard. Koi are Japanese fish, I used to work at a fish shop, so I know a lot about koi. Cocktails, I've been recently into cocktails. And then finally, bonsai. Bonsai, some people call it bonsai. These are trees in pots. So once you've identified your cultures, that helps you to narrow it down a little bit. Then what you need to do is go through each of those cultures and ask yourself, what of those cultures provides the best insight into you? What has the best things to say about it? And which one are you the most interested in? So if I go for father, father would probably, and it's number one here, so it's probably number one. It's probably one I would do my speech on because there's so much information. When I think about my kids right now, they're out swimming and they're just fantastic and they're insane and they have so many stories. I have so many stories that I could say about them. It lends itself to a lot of humor and a lot of interest. Professor, I used to teach at USC. I could talk about what it's like to be a USC professor versus a Valley College professor. There are a lot of different things that I could talk about, but I tell so many stories, and I don't think that would be the most interesting. Koi, I love koi. I could talk about koi for a long time. I was kind of their koi doctor sometimes. I would medicate the koi, take care of the koi. There's certain ways to look at koi to identify how valuable they would be. There are national champion koi from competitions that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're bred the same way that thoroughbred horses are bred. Cocktails. I'm having a cocktail right now. Right here. Lately I've been into rum. I just had some rum once. I thought it was kind of interesting. I started doing some research on it. And sometimes when you go through these topics, you have to ask, is this a good cultural narrative? Or maybe this is a good informative? Or maybe this is a good persuasive? Koi would be a very good informative. Rum and rum cocktails would be a very good informative because in many ways the history of rum is also the history of the United States. A lot of people don't realize that, like we had, a tea rebellion here in the United States. We also had rum rebellions. George Washington was known for his rum. So there's an interesting history there. Probably better off talking about that than to maybe get up here and choose rum as my culture and you all think I'm an alcoholic. The last one is bonsai, bonsai trees and pots. I have one right here. Let's get the best angle for that. This is an olive tree. It's one of my favorite trees. I have a collection of about 30 bonsai trees. Maybe, actually, I'm lying. I probably have a collection of probably about 100 bonsai trees, but I don't like to say that out loud around my wife. She gets a little upset about it. But about bonsai, my very first Father's Day, I went to Descanso Gardens, and there was a bonsai show, and I loved it. I was interested in it. So in many ways, it sort of parallels, my tree parallels my fathering career. I love the trees. But like koi and some of the other topics, there are bonsai trees worth over $1 million. That's not really part of my culture, but it's interesting. So I'd probably choose bonsai as an informative speech. Okay, so if I narrow it down to father, then I have to ask myself, okay, what is it about a father that I want to tell you? It's called a cultural narrative. Narrative means story. You could literally just get up here and tell stories. Here's what I want to talk about, which is fine. Here's a story. Last week I was out with this particular culture and this is what happened. And that's fantastic. I have tons of stories about my children. They're hilarious. I think my older son, he's going to be super smart, probably going to end up at like UCLA. My younger son is just, I don't know where he's going to end up. It's amazing how you can have the same parenting style, the same genetics, the same everything, and my kids are completely different. So that's what I would focus on. So identify your cultures, then break it down. What is it about that culture that you want to say? Okay?